I am walking. Hello, everyone. I'm walking along Hiatus Road. Before I started walking, I saw, as usual, the Sun Sentinel of South Florida left a paper on our door, which I always throw out because nobody reads it. Let's just be honest. But I want to discuss this topic that there are. I just finished reading just about maybe like 2 or 3 paragraphs, maybe 4 or 5. It's saying about Broward School sex ed policy could change. Board might remove entire chapters about birth control, anatomy, and LGBTQ people. Okay, now I'm going to give my 2 cents about this because based on my personal experience when I was in elementary, middle school, and the little bit of high school that I went through at that point in my life, that's when I started really suffering from anxiety. Therefore, I could not go to the main high school because it was just overwhelming. And also, I had other issues in my life that were just causing me a lot of depression, on top of the fact that I suffer from what used to be called manic depression, but they change the terms every so often, so now it's bipolar. Okay, so my opinion, my 2 cents on the matter is this. This is what they're suggesting. They're saying entire chapters about birth control, the reproductive system, human anatomy, and LGBTQ people would be removed from most sex ed lesson plans, according to district draft memo called Family Life and Human Sexuality Curriculum Matrix of Revisions 2022 through 2023. Drawings of the human body would largely be gone. HIV and AIDS, now mentioned as early as the 2nd grade, wouldn't be discussed until 7th grade. Puberty and menstrual periods, now mentioned as early as 4th grade, would be delayed until 6th grade. All right, so I just read you 2 paragraphs of the article. All right, now, based on what I've seen in schooling and the way the schools conduct, the way the schools have changed since I went to school, I would say there has been progress made. And what I mean by that is, all right, essentially elementary school, the first time I kissed a girl was in kindergarten, but it was just what I call un besito de pollito, like a little. It's like a chicken kiss. It's just like this on the lips, and that's it. Okay, and trust me, do not ask that of anybody unless they know what you mean, because it could lead you to trouble. That led me to trouble once. I asked that from somebody whom I thought had the most beautiful lips, and I said, "Solo quiero un besito de pollito." Next thing I know, we're full on making out, and I'm like, WTF? That's not what I expected, because it was the last person that I wanted to engage with, anything further than that. And I'll just leave it at that. Eso lo debería decir en español porque esa persona no entiende inglés. All right, anyways, the progress that I've seen that's been made in schools is, for elementary, is not as important as in middle school. And what that progress is dress codes. And I will mention why. Because during middle school, that's when kids usually hit puberty. And when you hit puberty, hormones will dictate the majority of your behavior. They are stronger than feelings. They are stronger than rational thoughts. Hormones are something that, GD will just completely take over you. And one of the things that excites those hormones, at least to me when I was in middle school, was the way that the girls would dress. And I was young, they were young, we were all young, and seeing girls dressed the way they dressed, they had a school policy where the girls would have to put their hands down to the side of their legs, and if the short or the skirt or whatever they're wearing was shorter than the length of their fingers, they would get in trouble. But so many girls just said the F with that. They would wear short ass skirts and shorts, and whenever a teacher would come around, they would just pull it down enough so that it would barely make it to the fingertips. So all day long, I'm seeing brand new, and it is very true. When a woman or a young lady goes through, that part of life, it's something that is very special. They're essentially becoming a woman. And when you're young, a young man, and you got these hormones running, excuse me, you got these hormones running through you, you don't know what to do with yourself. So during middle school, during elementary, I was straight A's. Back then we had something called Superstar Math. I was on that, on a roll every single year. And then in middle school, 6th grade, I was a little shy, but I still, try to get flirt a little bit here and there, because the girls already started, like I said, TNA. TNA will make a man go cray-cray, all right? You can quote me on that. So I started flirting a little bit. And then when 7th grade came around, I kind of lost interest in my studies because I was always, like I mentioned in an earlier video, I came from a country where the education system was different. So when I came here, essentially, I was already reading stuff like, I was reading science books about, relativity and general relativity. The scientists whom we all know who wrote that paper, and I was just fascinated by a lot of things. So in my free time, I would just read and read and read, and as much knowledge as I could accumulate, I would do so without having the instructions of a teacher or anybody else telling me to do so, because I wanted to acquire knowledge. Who doesn't want to acquire knowledge? Knowledge is power, and also knowledge is food for the brain. So just like your body needs food, so does the brain. So sometimes when you get that feeling that you feel happy when you learn something new, that's because you just ate some brain thought. You ate some food brain, or some brain food. I don't know how to call it. And that's what, it's a very good feeling. My sister, the one who told me when I make YouTube videos, I used to see her sit down with Dad and start doing, I believe it was when she started doing calculus. I don't know about geometry. Geometry, I think it wasn't that hard. I think it was calculus that started like really breaking her brain. And I would see her, she wasn't, allegedly, according to the intelligence quotient or whatever it's called, she wasn't as smart as her 2 older siblings, which was myself and the middle sister, which is the saint. Blessed be her heart. So I saw my youngest sibling working hard at learning calculus. Now keep in mind, back in the days, women, especially women who were involved in science, if they made a contribution to the field, a lot of times they wouldn't even put their names on the papers when they published the papers. It was their male counterparts. So we've come a long way in that sense, that women are now being given their due respect, which is great, because a woman, when it comes to things like that, can do just as good of a job as a man. Okay, having to use your head to compute and to do critical thinking, that kind of stuff. Anything that has to do with with high levels of cognitive abilities. Now men, yes, we're stronger. We can present ourselves with more confidence just because of the fact that we have our genitalia is different than a woman's. But I'm gonna cut the video short because I'm meeting up with a buddy of mine. But all right, everybody, be blessed. I'll continue a little bit later. Thanks. I'm walking, and I'm right here. Okay. So I put the paper away because there's not much to it, but I just want to give my 2 cents, which is just that the schools IMO have come a long way. If there are, and this is the big if there are middle schools where they have dress codes, meaning that the students have to adhere to strict dress codes, all the kids dress, they're in their uniforms, and those uniforms are, nonetheless, the TNAs are still going to be something that's going to be noticeable, but it's not going to be as bad as when I was in school. Because when I was in school, it was like, going through, it was like watching how do I say it? Watching like a movie where, they just show a lot of skin. That's one way. That's one way I feel that the schools, like I said, I'm not 100% sure, but if there are schools that have middle schools that have dress codes, that is one way that I feel like they have improved. Therefore, the curriculum, I do see a reason for it to change, because maybe these things don't need to be discussed as early, because but at the same time, I do feel it's very important that at least when they enter middle school, that some parents don't feel comfortable talking to their children about this SHIT. For example, my parents. I think mom might have talked about it a little bit, but the furthest they got to was this. They spoke to my sisters and they said, L.A., you guys have to be careful. Your brother's different. Your brother can go out, he can engage in relations, but he's not going to come home prego. You two, on the other hand, have to be very careful, because if you go out, you engage in relations, you come home prego, next thing you know, your life is going to take a turn for, you're going to miss out on any opportunities that you may or may not have had before you made that decision. So my parents were very kind of like loose, or I should say not too strict with my discipline, but when it came to my sisters, they were very strict. And I believe that's part of the reason why they worked very hard their whole lives. I'm talking about their academic careers, so that as soon as the older one, my older sibling, she moved out like a month or two before she even turned effing 18. The other one, she moved out as soon as she turned 18, albeit to what are those things called? It was like a sorority house, or it was like housing in the school. It was a FIU. So with that being said, if parents are comfortable enough to talk to their children about these things, which are very important, it's very important. If the child lives with mommy and daddy, mommy and daddy should be comfortable to talk to their children about this, because this is the real life. This is real. This is stuff that happens in real life. Children do go through times and they grow. I know we like to think of our kids as our little babies for the rest of their lives. I know I do. I think of my daughter as a baby, even though she's going to be 11 in approximately 8 months, I believe. But I still think of her as my little baby. But at the same time, I acknowledge the fact that she has become very smart. She knows a lot about a lot of things, and also the things that she doesn't tell me. I'm not a kid. I can read between the lines. So I don't say anything, because she talks to mom, like the things that she won't talk to me about. So that's okay, as long as she has, a parent, someone like an elder, someone she can look up to and guide her for her best interest, is fine by me. It doesn't have to be me, as long as it's somebody. I do talk to her when I can, or if it ever comes up. Sometimes I think my problem is that I don't think of children as children. I think of children as young adults. So when I talk to a young adult, I talk to them like I would talk to an adult. Now, I will ask as I'm speaking, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Or do you get what I'm saying? Because just in case it might be something that they don't fully comprehend. But I don't try to, I mean, I don't try to water it down, but I do not use at any time any foul language, any slang, anything that would be considered inappropriate. I try to do everything based on academia, on you know, I try to all the terminology that I use, I make sure that it's something that would be discussed inside of a classroom. And then I also try to hold back when I think it's about something that maybe is not age appropriate, even though sometimes I might slip up because, like I said, the princess is very, very smart. And don't let that get to your head, honey, okay? Just because you're smart doesn't mean you don't have to try. And also, I love you very much. And even if one day, like I've mentioned in the past, you come home, you got a B, you got a C, you got a D, you got an F, it's okay, But the important thing is that we learn from our mistakes. And now, Daddy, I was a fool my whole life because a wise person learns from the mistakes of others. A fool learns from their own mistakes. So the only way I was able to learn in life was by making the mistakes myself. If I would have been wise, I would have observed the people around me. I would have seen the choices that they did, and I would have seen the consequences that they had to suffer through. And then, based on that, I would have made my own choices. That's what a wise person is. And just in case you want to know what wisdom is when you have the knowledge to know the right thing to do and actually do it. That's what you call being wise. Having the knowledge of the right thing to do and actually doing it. So I guess that's about it. That's my 2 cents on the subject. If middle schools have, I think all middle schools should have uniforms. And it's a tough one because there's a lot of youth out there that unfortunately, because of this economy and this place where we live, parents have to work very, very hard, seldom get to spend time with their kids, seldom get to have sit downs and conversations with them. The family eating together in a table, that's something of the past. That's something that doesn't exist here in the States. Maybe for people who've lived here for generations and perhaps live in different states, or maybe here in Florida too, they might have that luxury. But a lot of those people, I would say, are, if not the 1%, are near the 1%. So they're able to teach and talk and communicate with their offspring, with their children, and they're able to, provide the knowledge needed that the child may or may not need in order to either make a decision that's going to lead them down the best path they can possibly go down through. So that's another reason why when searching for jobs, I did turn down the one job that I got accepted for because I'd rather spend time with the princess. Like I said, I make her most of her food. Mom claims that the food that she makes needs time because she makes dinners. She has, at least maybe at the very most, a couple handful of times in the past like 3 or 4 years. Mom, if you disagree with me, say so in the comments. So the food that I make are quick fixings. I can make. I've got everything down to like I don't even need the directions anymore. All the things that she eats, I know exactly how to make them. I always do ask, just to be safe, would you like this? Would you like that? Even though the majority of the time she says no, you never know, because every day is a new day. Therefore, a person may have had just grown, even if it's just a bit, or may out of all of a sudden have a spark of curiosity and might want to try something different. And I want her to have that option available. So I'll say, do you want mayonnaise with it? Do you want do you want sour cream? You know, just a little extras. Do you want the bread toasted? You know, I even though I make her simple things like sandwiches, like Chef Boyardee, ramen noodle, eggs, bacon, sausage, things in the air fryer like mini corn dogs. I serve her desserts, the pizza, the frozen pizza, which I got that down to, you know, perfection. I don't even need the box. I already know. At least for the tombstone pepperoni, the original crust, I already know how to do it perfectly. I make it so that if you open up one of those bags, and now I'm sorry for talking too much. If you're watching through this, I appreciate you so much, because I'm rambling on, and just the fact that you're willing to listen to what I have to say, man, or ma'am, you are amazing. You're an amazing person. With the tombstone, when you open the package, a lot of the cheese tends to fall off. So if you're not quick to let it fall into the bag that it comes in, or onto the paper round, like there's like a round paper thing that is placed on top, then it'll fall to the ground, and that's it, it's gone. So you got to catch it when it falls into the bag, and then try to put it on top of the pizza. That way you get the most product. You know, you don't lose a lot, and the pizza comes out nice and cheesy like it's intended to. And also on the sides, if you see that there's cheese falling off to the sides of the corners, I tend to break it off and put it more towards the middle. That way it doesn't, because eventually I have to clean the oven. You know, that's another thing. Every time you cook, every time I cook, I should say, or somebody else at that matter, I have to clean it up. So I'm in charge of that. Sometimes I'm really tired. I go to bed like around 8 or 9, which is 2100 hours. But then because I used to have or every once in a while, but not lately, I would get calls for a job that required me to wake up at 12:45. I'm sorry, at 45 minutes, at 0:45 hours. When I had that job, I got used to waking up like around 100 hours. So like this morning, I woke up at 100 hours. Bam! I went out. I made myself a cup of coffee. Well, first I had to use the restroom. Then I went out, made myself a cup of coffee, washed my hands, and then I finished putting everything in the machine, the washing machine. That way, essentially, the cycle will be done in the morning. Then first thing when I wake up in the morning, bam, wash my hands, and then take everything out. So essentially, I'm in charge for the dishes, which I'm very happy to do, because free time is the birth of evil, something like that, when you have too much time on your hands. So essentially, mom and dad blessed me by letting me do as many chores in the house as possible. Now, as far as they go, they are my elders, and they can do whatever they want. I cannot tell them otherwise. I am in no position. If I feel like they're doing something that might endanger themselves or endanger another person, yes, I will say something, because obviously that's something that obviously they wouldn't do it, but I would feel obliged to say something. But other than that, like, for instance, I had just messaged my sisters and I told them, I'm always going through financial trouble, because the little bit of the two gig jobs that I have, really one right now, because the other one I haven't been called to that much lately. And when I do get called to, it's usually like just like a half a day, because of the fact that I got to take the princess to school in the morning. I walk her to school and I walk her home. So I'm only able to work like 2 to 6 a.m., let's say, which is only like 4 hours. But nonetheless, going to the doctor, which I've been going to, and actually have had success since as of the 13th of July 2018, which is when I started taking Subutex. So now anybody that's interested in the medication-assisted treatment, there are two medications. The first one that I started with is one that was called Suboxone. Now, Suboxone is essentially, I'm going to tell you what it is. It's a scam, and I'll tell you why. Suboxone was created by this company, who eventually had to endure a class action lawsuit. And the reason being is because they were overcharging for their medication. And when I say overcharging, I'm talking about when I switched to Subutex, which is essentially the same active ingredient. Suboxone is a mixture of two ingredients, and I'll explain to you why they add that second ingredient in a second. When I switched to the Subutex, which its active ingredient or generic brand ingredient is called buprenorphine. When I switched to that, it cost me less to fill a month's worth of script than it cost me to fill a week's worth of the Suboxone. And the reason why doctors want to prescribe Suboxone is because of this. Suboxone allegedly, and I will tell you why allegedly, because I've seen it with my own eyes, okay? All right? Suboxone allegedly was designed so that people would not abuse it. In other words, people would not, because buprenorphine is like oxycodone, it's water soluble, meaning that if you put it in water, eventually it'll just dissolve, and then you can put it in the needle, and I don't want to get into the rest of it. So what the pharmaceutical companies did, they said, hey, let's make this thing called Suboxone, where it's going to be just like Subutex, but we're going to add 2 milligrams of the brand name is Narcan. The generic name is naloxone. We're going to add 2 milligrams of that, and then we're going to market it saying that we have this new medication to help medication-assisted treatment patients that is non-abusable. Okay? That was their gimmick. And now, if you listen to what I'm going to tell you, this is first-hand experience. I've actually witnessed it, and it was just terrible, and it completely disproves, but it proves the fact that Suboxone is a scam, but it disproves that people won't abuse it. I've seen a person take a Suboxone, they mostly sell them in like in strips, in like lozenge strips. Take a lozenge strip of Suboxone, let it dissolve in water, since it's water soluble, and then still abuse it how it was not meant to be abused. And you know what they said to me? They said that the fact that they add naloxone or Narcan for paramedics, for people that only know brand names, the reason they add that is just so they can charge more money, because the half-life of Narcan or naloxone is only 7 minutes. So I can do what I'm doing right now. This is the person that was doing that at the time. I'm not going to say any names. I can do it like how I'm doing it right now, which was abusing it, which was the whole point of why they made it. And Yes, it won't hit me right away like Subutex, but in 7 minutes, you know. So it's still something that was essentially being abused by people who, if they wanted to, they would. But they were charging more than 300% the price of the medication without that extra ingredient. More than 300%. I would say about 350%, maybe even 400%, because towards the end, I realized that the buprenorphine not only helped me so that I would not be I would not have any temptation to do any illegal drugs off the street, but it also helped me with my pain. Because keep in mind, I worked about 15 years and I still work doing manual labor. So and also I sleep on a couch that is like 3 separate sections. So I suffer from back pain. I've never had an MRI. I don't obviously can't afford it, but I was taking Tylenol, because Tylenol is what worked for me most effectively. Ibuprofen, for my body, it does not respond. But I was taking about maybe 5, on average, 5 extra strength Tylenol a day. That's about 2,500 milligrams, and I believe the limit, so that you don't damage your liver, is about 3,000 milligrams, give or take. So when I started taking the medication, Subutex, which is the one that they don't want to prescribe because they rather prescribe the one that's non-abusable, I asked my doctor if I could get extra because it actually helps me with my pain. So it actually, for me, it serves two purposes. It helps me, 3 purposes at that. Helps me so that I don't go out and buy illicit drugs, illegal drugs, any type of opioid or anything like that. Well, my choice of drugs is opioid, so it doesn't matter. It helps me because it actually helps me with my depression. It helps, it obviously releases dopamine. It's a partial agonist. It's not a full agonist, it's a partial agonist, and which is good because it actually just Subutex by itself, it's already made so that you don't abuse it. It's not a full agonist like oxycodone, morphine, heroin, fentanyl. So whether you do I'm supposed to take 1 pill every 8 hours or 3 times a day. If I do 1 or if I do 2, it's not going to make a difference. I'm not going to feel any better. I just take 1, and that's the best I'm going to take because it's a partial agonist. It's not a full agonist. And so it already has that mechanism built in. But this is the thing that really gets me upset. And now, like I mentioned before, all the people that are still watching me yap my flap, okay? Because I know I've been talking now for what? Let's see. Damn, 23 minutes. Add that to the 10 minutes. I've been talking for 33 minutes. Nobody on YouTube stays on for this long, okay? I know what I'm saying is not that interesting. Unless maybe you're a MAT patient, or maybe you're old school and you're able to retain attention for long periods of time, or maybe you're just stoned and you're just sitting in front of the monitor and just forgot to change the channel. I don't know. So getting back to what I was going to say, it helps me 3 ways. It helps me so that I don't relapse. It helps me so that it improves my state of depression, and it helps me because it helps me with my pain. Instead of having to take 5, sometimes more Tylenols a day, I only take Tylenol if I take it once a week. That's a lot. Once a week. So now my liver doesn't have to process all of that acetaminophen, which essentially is bad for you, and essentially worse than opioid. Opioids are, if you think about it, out in the East, they don't put 2 parts acetyl to the acetyl morphine to the morphine, and they don't extract the morphine from the opium from the plants. All they do is they just cut up the bulb, which is what before it flowers is a bulb. They cut up the bulb, they take the stickiness, and that's pure opium, and they smoke that. It's nowhere nearly as addictive. It's nowhere nearly as fatal. And out there, they don't really have pharmaceuticals because obviously you must be rich. You know, those countries, you know, everything's more expensive. Everything's expensive here too. That's why even though I work what I work, I'm still in need because my pharmacy had changed because I made a video on it. CVS, for no particular reason, they filled for me last year, 2022, in November, and then in December, I turned in my script on a Thursday evening. It was after 6, to a lady named Laura. Now, allegedly, I found out that she was the pharmacy manager or the head pharmacist. I forget what they call them different in different pharmacies. And when I turned it into her, she said, okay, we'll order it. It'll be ready on Monday. Now, I had thought that the pharmacy manager for that store was a lady by the name of Anne. I forget her last name, but her name is Anne. This older lady. And I thought she was nice because I went to her about a year prior and I told her my situation and she said, sure, fine. She filled everything the same day. But I don't know what happened through the course of a year. I would try to go back there to get my stuff filled. They filled it the first month, no problem. One of my medications, they only had a partial, so she filled a partial. I went back, and then I filled the other partial because unless it's a Schedule 2 medication, you're allowed to fill partials, you know? If they tell you no, that's either the pharmacy's policy, so because the pharmacy is lazy, or maybe your insurance company, one of the twos. So anyways, nonetheless, they gave me no problem in November. And then when I went back for the following month in December, you know, I'm a returning patient. I dropped off my script on a Saturday, on a Thursday evening. The pharmacist Laura, which allegedly now I hear she is the head pharmacist or the pharmacy manager, told me it'll be ready Monday. But then Monday comes and the lady tells me, oh, we don't have your Subutex. And then my other medication, which is Alprazolam, they should have had that because the month before they had it on the Monday. But she said, oh, but the machine was telling me I had to wait till tomorrow, till Tuesday. Now keep in mind, I dropped it off on a Thursday, and I only had like 2 more days of medication left. So I had to make it last Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. So that's 4 days that I left my script there, okay? And by law, you're allowed to pick up controlled substances 2 days early, you know? I mean, what most people don't understand, when you suffer from anxiety like I do, it's important for you to pick up that medication those extra 2 days, because just knowing that you have it, it eases your sense of anxiety of thinking, am I going to get my medication on time or am I not going to get it on time? But people that are healthy, and you know, most people that work in the healthcare field, I would say most, but I'm sure there's still some people with problems, but you know, that's confidential information per HIPAA. So, you know, they don't understand that if we're taking a medication like Alprazolam, it's for a reason. It's because we suffer from anxiety. Me, myself, before I started taking, I was having panic attacks. Thank goodness I was able to get it prescribed, because I've only had like, I wouldn't even say a panic attack, but like one near panic attack after that. And the only reason I didn't have it was because I took an extra one of the, you know, I didn't wait. Like I took it, and then instead of waiting like 6 to 8 hours like I usually do, I took the next one and like within like an hour or two, because I could feel, you know, and there's, you know, I'm sorry for being human and for having to suffer these conditions, but they are real medical conditions. I never go into a pharmacy and I'm never disrespectful towards anybody. I'm never demanding. On the contrary, I try to be patient. I try to, you know, work with them as much as I can. But when I drop off a script on a Thursday evening and then they order it, and I know they get it the next day, I know that, but they for some reason, the big chains, I guess when it's a big chain pharmacy, you know, they have, normally those are pharmacies that are they're the property of the shareholders, so they have to think about their bottom line. So for them, somebody who suffers, who's in a medication assisted treatment program, that's pennies to them compared to somebody who needs medication for cancer, medication for heart disease, medication for diabetes, medication for a whole bunch of other things. So they're not going to put me on the top of the list when they have other things where they can make more money off of. They're going to put me all the way on the bottom, and then because of that, I have to suffer. And that's what happened to me in 4 months ago on December. I went on a Monday, and this is what the lady said. And I forget her last name, but her first name is Ann, A-double-N. She said, sorry, none of your medications came in. When I called earlier and the machine said that the alprazolam was in. So then I said, well, could I at least get a partial of my buprenorphine? And she should have said, I'm sorry, honey, nothing came in. But instead, she replied with, oh, no, I'm not filling a partial. Come on. Hey, I may be an addict, but I'm not an idiot, all right? And also, I'm not an addict. I'm a recovering addict, okay? So, like I've been telling my sisters, I took the first step. It's going to be 5 years this July. I started taking the second step, which is doing more from what mom and dad are telling me, and also a good friend of mine who's an entrepreneur and wants me to get on my 2 legs because he refuses to help me. He wants me to go out and get it on my own, as it should be, because nobody in this world owes you anything. Anything that you want or that you need, you have to go out there and you have to get it. That's why mom and dad have been saints to me in life. That's why when I have to do whatever I have to do at home, even if it's everything, you know, clean the whole house or do this or do that, I do it with pleasure, with complete pleasure. And more than that, I'm just very grateful every morning when I wake up and I realize that they woke up. Thank you very much for watching. If you made it to this point, more power to you. And I thank you so much. Please subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. I know my videos are just video logs or vlogs. And I'm still working with the iPhone 13 mini. I would like to get the new iPhone 14 in yellow. They don't have a mini version yet, so hopefully they will come out with a mini. If they do, I want that one bad, the yellow, because I like the color yellow. But all right, thanks for watching. Be blessed, be kind, please, and thank you so much for watching till this very moment. Thanks. Bye.